Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about Doppler lidar and Doppler radar, how it works, but I feel the basic definitions have to be reminded so we can go to that without a problem. First we must define a cycle. A cycle means let's say a phenomenon, something happens and then it doesn't happen and then happen again. It is a cycle between happening or between not happening. For instance, you switch the lights on and then switch it off and then switch it on again. Between two switching ons there is it is called a cycle, or between two switching off it is also a cycle. The second thing we want to learn is a period. I have written it as number 2. Period is the time it takes for a full cycle. So a cycle of switchings on or offs. Frequency means in a given time, let's say in 100 seconds or in 10 seconds, how many cycles I can fall. You ask your friends how many times you can do that. How fast, actually. Wavelength is the distance. We will talk about that a little bit later. Let's make an example. I have written here, if we switch on a key and switch it off again and then switch it on in 2 minutes, let's say we can do that 30 times in 2 minutes. Let's calculate the frequency and period. So okay, let's say this is my graph and it is switched, the switches are off and my friend, it is off and my friend puts it on, switch it on. It is on and it takes few seconds until he can then again switch it off. It also takes few seconds, it is switched off and then he can switch it on again. And then it goes on and on for 2 minutes. I do not continue it any further. Now let's distinguish a cycle. This is a cycle from or between two switch offs. This is also a cycle. No, not this here. This is also a cycle between two switches off. Oh no, I made a mistake because it is from here to here, and these two should be equal. Let's calculate the frequency. We show it with either mu or with this one mu, and it is the cycle 30 times divided by 120 seconds, which would give me 1/4 of a hertz. I show hertz with big H and a small z. My period is frequency around 1 over frequency is my period, which would be 4 seconds. And what it means is that it takes 4 seconds to start to go from one cycle to another. What it means is that it takes 4 seconds for my friend to switch the keys on, off, and on again. I still cannot define a meaningful wavelength here, but here in the second example I can define it better. Let's say I have a cycle and this is my cycle. It starts from point A. All the students have to run around this full cycle and come back again at exactly point A. Okay, student A has the velocity of a student A is 20 meters per second. And he completed 2 rounds, or let's say 10 rounds, in 4 minutes. So the frequency would be 10 divided by 4 multiplied by 60, 240, and it is 1/24 hertz. This is the frequency. Period, on the other hand, is 24 seconds. And it means it takes 24 seconds for the student to run 1 time. So what is the distance of this cycle? What is the distance he covered running around the circle? Is it 100 meters? Is it how big is it? So it is basically my distance, or my velocity is my distance over my time, or in this case our period, and it is, let's say, 20 meters per second, is my distance, or let's say lambda, divided by 24, so it is 480 meters. Maybe he's a little bit too fast and he made many rounds. Since frequency is the other way around of time, instead of dividing the distance by frequency, I could also say 20 meters per second is lambda multiplied by frequency, and frequency was 124. Again, nothing has changed, so the lambda is again 440. I know t is equal to 1/24. I know, sorry, it is 24 seconds. What is the frequency in 100 seconds? So we know frequency is cycles over time. So let's say, and if you forget it, let's say 1 cycle over 24 seconds, and how many cycles over 100 seconds? So it is 100 over 24, but remember it is not my frequency, but it is my cycle. So again, 100 over 24 over 100 would be my frequency, but I do not need it anymore. So until now we understood what these 3 main criteria of a signal means. Just to sum it up, lambda, or wavelength is actually the distance traveled in a circle or area of a circle from point A back to point A. This is lambda. Frequency is how many circles in, let's say, 10 minutes, in, let's say, 2 seconds, whatever. So if I say I have completed, let's say, 2 circles in 1 minute, so it means, and that circle is, let's say, 1 meters. What I have to do to get my velocity is to multiply the distance traveled and how many times I have traveled the distance in that time frame. And it would be in meters per second.